Satgamaya Tamaso ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityurama Amritangamaya Om Shanti 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 Hari Om. Om, lead us from the unreal to the real. Lead us from darkness unto light. Lead us from death to immortality. Oh, peace, peace. This session, of course, is mainly for question answers, and I already have a question to answer, and I'll take some more questions. But before that, one more verse. I'm pushing it ahead little by little. Two verses which we did towards the end, I sort of rushed through them. Shakti dvayam hi mayaya vikshepa avriti rupakam vikshepa shaktir lingadi brahmandantam jagat srijet srishtir nama brahma rupe satchidananda vastuni abdho henadivat sarvanama rupa prasarana.
Which verse?
13 and 14. The last two we did. What do they mean? Maya has two powers. Maya, which itself is the power of God or Brahman, has two powers, two functions. One, vikshepa, projection. Vikshepa has different meanings in Sanskrit. It means projection, it also means distortion. Distortion. Maya presents Brahman in a distorted way. The immortal is presented as a changing reality. The pure consciousness is presented as a material reality. Oneness is presented as plurality. And that which is all bliss is presented as suffering. So, vikshepa, that's one function or power of Maya. The other power of Maya is avriti. It hides or veils. Veils what? From whom? We'll see later. So what does the projecting power do, or the distorting power? Vikshepa Shakti Lingadi Brahmandantam Jagat Srijet. The power of projection projects Brahman, starting with the mind, physical bodies, to the universe outside. All of that is projected by the projecting power of Maya. In case we think that something really is happening, nothing is really happening. It is Maya which distorts Brahman. It's like looking looking at a thing through a distorting lens. Nothing has happened to the thing. Nothing has happened to Brahman. This is what distinguishes Advaita Vedanta from other schools. In Dvaita Vedanta, dualistic Vedanta, Madhvacharya, God actually creates a real universe out there. God is separate, universe is separate, and we are separate from God. That's a dualistic religion. In Vishishtadvaita, God or Brahman is with qualities, and among the attributes of Brahman are the sentient beings like us and insentient things like this universe. They are all real. They are all parts of God. In the another school of Vedanta, Shuddhadvaita, Vallabhacharya, by the very power of Sankalpa, by the very wish of the Lord, this Brahma Parinamavada, Brahman itself transforms into the universe. Actually, like milk being transformed into yogurt, the divine is transformed into the universe. It leads to a kind of pantheism. This universe itself is God. So Swami, isn't this what Advaita says, non-dualism? No. Well, as Swami Vivekananda pointed out, this universe is not, God is. In pantheism, we do not say the universe is not. The universe is there, and God has somehow become this universe. So these are different. There are many different theories. But in Advaita Vedanta, because of Maya, Brahman alone appears, does not become this universe. Appears as minds, bodies, and external universe. And then the game starts. This samsara which is going on. So what is creation, Srishti? Creation in Advaita Vedanta is nothing other than Brahma Rupe Satchidananda Vastuni. In Brahman. What is Brahman? We keep using the term Brahman. What is it? It is existence. Existence of what? It's not a thing which exists. It's existence itself. It is consciousness. Consciousness of what? It's not a consciousness of something. It is consciousness itself. Pure consciousness. Ananda. Bliss. Not that Brahman is happy. It is happiness or bliss itself. What it means, of course, it will take a separate talk. But what pure consciousness means, I hope we have gathered a fairly good understanding. When we try to understand what is the drashta, the seer, the sakshi, the witness, we are actually trying to understand what pure consciousness is. In the same way, there is a conception of pure existence and pure bliss. But we are not going into that. So in this pure existence, consciousness, bliss, which is supposed to be the only reality, a network of names and forms is spread out. This network of names and forms is the work of Maya. Are they real? No. Are they unreal? No. Maya is defined as something that can be said neither to be existing nor to be not existing. Maya does not exist in the sense of Brahman. If Maya and Brahman both exist, then you have dualism. Maya plus Brahman, two, not one. If Maya does not exist, then you wouldn't experience this universe. Brahman alone would be there. So Brahman, Maya does not exist in the sense that Brahman exists. And yet Maya cannot be dismissed as non-existent. So in non-dual Vedanta, Maya is said to be indeterminate as far as existence and non-existence is concerned. Sad asadbhyam anirvachanam. That is the technical term used for Maya. And therefore everything that is a product of Maya, minds, bodies and all the names and forms we see out there, they are all just like Maya. They cannot be said to exist like Brahman. And yet they cannot be said not to exist. And this is not very strange. You might say this is a very strange way of speaking, but it's not really. Consider illusion. When we experience a snake, mistake a rope for a snake, the illusory snake which we see, even if it's for a passing instant, we do see it. We do see something. Later on we realize it's a mistake. But the snake which we saw by mistake, by error, by illusion, can you say that the snake exists? No, there is no snake there. Can you say it does not exist? No, then what did you see? So the error has to be given some kind of ontological status. Not as real as the rope, but not totally unreal either. Consider what is a lie. A lie. Telling a lie is not the same as remaining silent. The difference between truth and silence, in between lies a lie. When somebody tells a lie, he is actually telling something. But what that person is telling is not true. So a lie, in Sanskrit, mithya. It's not the truth, but it's not nothing either. So error, a lie, mithya, illusion, appearance, they are all the same. That's what Maya does. Maya is not bad. So why is Maya being so nasty to us? Maya is not bad. If we are enlightened, if we realize ourselves to be Brahman and everything that we experience as Brahman, then Maya is great. It makes a colorless Brahman colorful. You have Loon Lake and this magnificent thing to enjoy because of Maya. Brahman is no good as far as Loon Lake is concerned and individual existence is concerned. It's just pure existence consciousness bliss. Samsara disappears and it all becomes Leela. Beautiful term, Leela, divine play. Right now we can't call it a divine play. It's samsara to us. Changing world in which we suffer and seek and strive and struggle and die and born and it's ceaseless struggle and strife. But once we realize ourselves as Brahman and this universe as Brahman, seeing through the veiling power of Maya, follow this carefully, we see through the veiling power of Maya with the help of Vedanta. But that does not do anything to the projecting power of Maya. So even after seeing through the veiling power of Maya, we see everything as Brahman. The projecting power of Maya still continues to project this universe. As long as we have eyes, we shall see forms. As long as we have ears, we shall hear sound. As long as we have tongue, we shall taste. And so on. But the difference between an enlightened person and an unenlightened person is this. An unenlightened person thinks there are those things out there what I see. Thinks these are things, real things which I hear. Here is a real thing which I am tasting. The enlightened person realizes it is all Brahman. Sees, hears, tastes the same things, but knows without the slightest shred of doubt it is Brahman appearing in all these forms. It's like you have doors and windows and the lectern, so many things here, dozens of things. If I say all of this is wood, now that doesn't mean the lectern will disappear and the doors and windows all will become wood or sawdust or something. No, they will continue to be exactly what they are and they will look the same, they will fulfill the same functions, they will continue to be the same, but we realize all of them are made of the same material.
What if we say they're all molecules?
They are all molecules.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. But the molecules are different from each other and the molecule is different from... wood is an example. By realizing everything is wood, we have not become enlightened. We have got a kind of wooden non-dualism. And if you say everything is molecules or atoms or quarks, you have a molecular non-dualism. But a Vedantic non-dualism is you, the pure consciousness, are everything. That's what we are trying to realize. Realizing everything is molecules still leaves you as observer of those molecules. It's a multiplicity. Yes, there's a question. No, there's a question first here.
I'm not sure if this fits into your plan for the talk, but I'm curious about the differentiation between Maya of non-dualism with the Maya of Madhavacharya and Vallabhacharya. How do they differ all of this?
Oh, there are, yes, the Maya of non-dualism and Maya in other Vedanta theories. So, there's a big difference. Maya in non-dualism is fundamentally ignorance. Ignorance has a power. It distorts and presents illusion. Error is born of ignorance. I am ignorant of the rope, hence I see a snake. If I knew the rope to be a rope, I wouldn't see the snake. If I knew the desert to be a desert, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. I know there are 3 different kinds of deserts. Getting your deserts, eating your desert, and being in the Arizona desert. So the desert where I see water in a mirage. If I know the water to be a mirage, I will still continue seeing it, but I know it's just sand and hot air and optical illusion. There's no water there, even though I see it. Look, these 2 examples are different. The snake disappears when I see the rope. The water will not disappear when I see it to be a mirage. It will still appear like that. But I know there is no water there. I know it's a desert. It's all a function of ignorance. I did not know it, hence I made a mistake. Now I know it, the mistake is corrected. Even though I go on seeing the same thing, I know it's not water. In the same way, Brahman appears as this world, as a real world out there, and Brahman is hidden from me because of Maya. This is the function of ignorance. Ignorance hides the rope and projects the very rope as a snake. Ignorance hides Brahman and projects the very Brahman as the word, object, and a subject, me. When I realize Brahman appears through the veiling power of ignorance, I realize I am Brahman and everything is Brahman. This is Maya in Advaita Vedanta. But Maya in the dualistic schools is the power of the Lord to create a real universe out there. It's a real power creating a real universe. It's not an ignorance to be overcome.
Maharaj,
That's why, one point here. In the dualistic schools, they will say knowledge does not lead to liberation. What kind of knowledge, what will help you when you see a snake by mistake? Knowledge of the rope. You can't drive the snake away with a stick because there's no real snake there. Action will not help you when you are making a mistake. Knowledge will help you when you are making a mistake. Isn't that so? When you are making a mistake, you need knowledge because a mistake is born of ignorance. Ignorance can be corrected by knowledge. In the same way, if this world and our individual existence is a mistake, big if, then it is born of ignorance. Ignorance of what? The ground of that error. The very ground of existence, as Eckhart says. When you realize that ground, when you realize that it's a rope, the snake error is corrected. When you realize that it's Brahman, I am Brahman, this error that I am a body, mind experiencing a material universe, it is corrected. But if it's a real power which has created a real universe out there separate from me, multiplicity is real, it's not an error, then trying to realize everything as Brahman will not help me. It will still remain real, I will still remain a real body and mind, still stuck in a real samsara. Knowledge will not help me. If it's a real snake, trying to think that it's a rope will not help you. It will bite, the snake will bite you. A real snake requires a stick to drive it away, or whatever. A real world created by a real power of God, a real Maya, requires only the grace of God which can set you free. The wielder of the power can set you free. You can't do anything in it. You're completely helpless.
So if it's real science, what you explain by understood correctly, that the Maya, the creation of Maya is real in that context, in the Buddhist context. But then the God's Leela plays a role in that, and then only God can set you free, but free from what?
Free from the suffering of samsara. And then you come into the company of God. The liberation in dualistic Vedanta is very different from the liberation in non-dualistic Vedanta. In non-dualistic Vedanta, you realize yourself as the infinite Brahman. And you are free from limited existence. In dualistic Vedanta, you remain as a limited existence. But you get to go and spend time in the company of the big guy, God. You go to Vaikuntha, Kailasha, Ramakrishna Loka, heaven, something like that, and you get to spend time with him. As a blessed time. A blessed time in a perfect but still limited existence as an individual. You don't get to become one with God. So that's a heaven concept. And it's dualism through and through, from beginning to end. Okay, we'll stop this here. We'll go on with this. Yeah, questions?
I was just asking, is this the Ishvara you're talking about?
Saguna Brahman, Ishvara. No, his question was, in a non-dual Vedanta also you can speak about Ishvara, and we do speak about Ishvara, Saguna Brahman. But what is the difference between this and the Ishvara you speak about in dualistic Vedanta? Dvaita Vedanta, Vaishnava Vedanta. What is the difference? So that was the question. Yes.
Maharaj, is then Maya interchangeable with ignorance? Is it the one and the same thing?
Yes, the definition of Maya in Vedanta Sar, for example, introductory book of Advaita Vedanta, is Samashti Ajnana, the totality of ignorance. Now this is sacrilegious. You're saying the power of God is totality of ignorance. We are little fools and you're making God out to be a huge fool. We are little fools because we have bits and pieces of ignorance. And if the totality of all of that belongs to God, then God is a big fool. No. Well, this one has to be careful about this. Sri Ramakrishna puts it in his beautiful example of the snake which has all the poison in its fangs. If it puts a little bit of the poison in the frog or a mouse, the mouse collapses and the frog dies. But all the poison in the fangs of the snake cannot affect the snake. In fact, all that poison is the power of the cobra. And that poison, little bit of that is death to the prey of the cobra. Even a tiny fraction of that. In the same way, we are under the domain of Maya. This word used there in Vedanta is Mayadhina. We are in the domain of Maya. Whereas the Lord, Brahman, Saguna Brahman, is Maya Dhisha, the Lord of Maya. Maya is the power of the Lord, and it's a power exercised upon us. Like the cobra with the totality of poison in its mouth. Another example somebody gave was quite nice. Each of us in a democratic nation, we have one vote. And the person who gets all the votes together, or most of them, that person gets to become the president. So the one who gets all the votes is the ruler. One who has one vote is the ruled. So you have a part of Maya at our back, the causal body, the cause behind us. And that makes us an individual, a jiva. The same Brahman becomes a jiva. With the totality of that, the same Brahman becomes God. Let me draw that again to be clear. This is Brahman. And remember, this is exactly the witness we spoke about, Sakshi. In the first verse of Drg Drsya Viveka, all this time till this morning we were dealing with this one. Just another name for that is Brahman. This is Maya. From our point of view, it veils Brahman. And not only that, Brahman is not totally veiled. It is projected or distorted as here is one causal body plus one subtle body plus one gross body. And that's called a human being. Here's one causal body plus one more subtle body plus a gross body. And that gets to be called a dog. And so on. And there is an external world too. All of that is done. And how is that done? If you want details and all that, this, of course, this is too small a book for the details. You are referred to Chandogya Upanishad, Taittiriya Upanishad. There they speak about a general theory of how everything emerges. Taittiriya Upanishad, for example. Tasmad va etasmad atmana akasha sambhuta akashat vayu vayuragni ragnirapa adbhya prithvi prithibhyam oshadayah oshadhibhyo annam annat purushah. What does it say? Very poetic. From that Atman, the self, which is pure existence, consciousness, bliss, from that, through Maya, emerges space. And from that emerges, from space comes air. From air comes fire. From fire comes water. From water comes earth. And from the earth, in the earth are born the shrubs, herbs and trees and plants. And that, through the bodies of our parents, is this body created. So, in a very rough sketch, it shows you from something primordial, space, vibration, heat, energy, then subtle matter, gross matter, then the universe evolves, life comes, and that evolves into physical bodies in which it can support intelligence. The same consciousness pervading everything. So that's one story of creation you find in the Upanishads.
One comment please.
Yeah.
Doesn't Mahakasha includes time too?
Yes, time and space were put together. It's time and space are created together, according to Vedanta.
That's relative.
Yes.
Just wondering, I'm not clear that Satchidananda has any meaning outside of being experienced. In and of itself, what's the utility or what's the experience of it? You become one with Brahman.
Sat, existence. Chit, consciousness. Ananda, bliss. And as you said, it's rooted in our experience.
Right.
In fact, all of Vedanta starts not like science with an examination of the external world. It starts with an examination of our experience. And the fundamental of our experience is found to be existence, awareness, and bliss. Existence how? Everything that we know or experience is grounded in existence. It exists. I exist. This exists. Existence, existence, existence. And this existence is experienced always in awareness. There can be no experience without existence and awareness. And all of meaning in life is concerned principally with bliss. The whole thing is about bliss. I will not go into that. That requires a special, I will just understand it, absorb it sort of intuitively. Think about it this way. Everything in the universe, one common thing to everything in the universe is that it exists. If it does not, it's non-existent. It's a truism. It's a tautology. Everything exists. So existence is something that's common to everything in the universe. And consciousness is something that's common to all our experiences. Without consciousness, no experience is possible. And just take it this way. You can even grasp it intuitively. As far as we are concerned, the whole thing is about bliss.
I'm thinking of the salt valve. Once the salt valve enters the waters, it becomes that,
Yeah.
but it doesn't experience that.
No. We are not going to go into that. That's very deep there. Pun intended. If I melt, that will be the end of the class. Alright, now, but let me just step back and do one more verse and then we'll go back to the questions. 15th verse is really, it sets the course for the rest of the book. Verse number 15. Verse number 15. Now this is a very quick, like a pen sketch of the Vedantic idea of creation. Suffice it to say, there is much more to it than this, but it's just an outline. Brahman through Maya projects the universe. That's what they want to say. Details, Taittiriya Upanishad, Chandogya Upanishad, Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, endless details are there. Once you come to this side of Maya, I would say we today in the 21st century, we should look to physics and to mathematics and to the other sciences for details. They can easily be plugged into this, and I think it's best to do that. But on the other side, here is, now having done this, the book brings us back to the problem. What are we to do now? It orients us. 15th verse. Drg Drsya Viveka Drg Drsya Viveka Bahishcha Brahma Sargayo Avrinotya Parashakti Sa samsarasya karanam. And here's the whole point of it all. The second power of Maya. The first power was the power of projection. That's what we saw. Vikshepa, which leads to this. The second power, here is the problem. Avaran, veiling. What does this do? It does two things. Within us, when we look inside us, it hides Brahman from us. Outside us, when we look outwards, it hides Brahman from us. Or more precisely, within us, it hides the difference between the seer and the seen inside. Outside us, it hides the difference between name and form and Brahman.
Excuse me, Lord, will you write that in the book?
That's beautiful.
It is one thing to say in a simplistic way, Maya hides Brahman from us. It's a better thing to say, look within, Maya hides the Brahman within you. Look outside, Maya hides the Brahman outside, everywhere in the world. It's even more precise and to the point to say, Maya doesn't hide Brahman within you. Maya doesn't hide Brahman outside you. Within you, Maya hides the difference between the seer and the seen. Outside you, Maya hides the difference between Brahman and name and form. Inside you and outside you, Brahman is not hidden. It is blazing forth right now. Nisargadatta, the famous non-dualist of Mumbai, who lived in a slum in Mumbai, he was asked, how do you see Brahman? How does an enlightened person see Brahman? You're supposed to see Brahman everywhere. See means within quotes see, experience, understand, know Brahman everywhere. How do you do that? Is it something like an understanding, a theory, a knowledge, a memory, something like that? He says, no. For an enlightened person, sometimes you see in the sky, the sun is there and the moon is also faintly there. For an enlightened person, Brahman ever blazes forth like the sun in the sky, and the world is like the faint outline of the moon. It's undeniable. You can't turn away from it. Where will you turn away? You will turn away wherever you turn it. It's not a theory. It's not even some understanding. A scientist might say, yeah, I see tables and chairs, but I understand it's electrons and protons. But he's not vividly experiencing electrons and protons. But in a Brahmagyan, it's not that. I see chairs and tables, but I understand it as Brahman because I've read Drg Drsya Viveka. No, not like that. It's like the noonday sun blazing forth. And we will see. They will help us to see that. So get your sunglasses ready. In the 20th verse it's coming. How in every experience, everywhere, outside and inside, you can experience Brahman all the time. They will show us in the 20th verse. Yes.
Maharaj, you just said that Brahman through Maya projects the universe.
Yeah.
Then through our actions, we propagate Maya also. It's like a partnership, but kind of a different kind of thing.
Through our actions, through our words, through our thoughts. Kaya Manavakya. We are partners in crime with Maya. Spirituality, all spiritual practice seeks to reverse that. Selfish action, transform into unselfish action. Karma becomes karma yoga. Love of the world, transform it into love of God. Desire, vasana becomes bhakti. Thought scattered in the world, make it one pointed on God. Vikshepa, the scattering of the mind becomes ekagrata, concentration of mind, yoga. Knowledge, world and I, subject and object, realize everything as Brahman. So, in word, in deed and in thought, we are helping Maya to propagate this world, universe and our samsara. Now see, look at this verse. Antar, the very precise thing. Antar Drg Drsya Viveka. Drg, the seer. Drishya, the seen. Antar, within ourselves. Bhedam, difference. Inside us, look at this. In each of us, the witness is ever blazing forth. But the difference between these two is obscured. I, the witness, I do not understand I am different from the mind and body. This difference is obscured by Maya. What do I see myself as? I forget this and I see myself as this. Who sees? This person does not see himself as this. This sees. This sees itself as this. Completely forgetting this. And outside, this very Brahman is appearing as this. What do we see? Mountains and Loon Lake and planets and stars. But what is it really? Brahman. That difference is obscured. Brahman and the name and form upon Brahman. These two are appearing together We forget the Brahman aspect of it, take the name and form alone to be real. It's like saying, very simple, I look at the table and the chairs and you tell me, oh, it's wood. I say, what's wood about it? It's a table and it's a chair. Oh, Swami, yes, it's a table and a chair, but it's wood. I am taking the wood and the name table and the form table as one thing. The difference is not clear to me. I say this is table. For you it's clear because you understand what wood is and what is a table. Because they are not two separate things, you can't separate them and show it to me. It has to be understood. Brahman, the whole package is right in front of us. Brahman with name and form. We are seeing it as a tree, as a lake, as a sky and a forest. It's Brahman with the name and form of tree, name and form of lake, name and form of sky and forest and everything. So, Avrinoti Apara Shakti, the second power of Maya, the veiling power of Maya, it obscures the difference between Brahman within you and your name and form, mind and body. And outside, it obscures the difference between Brahman and this table, name and form. So we regard this as a table, and I regard myself as a human being, as a person, limited person. And he says, Sa samsarasya karanam. Here is the root of the whole problem. This second power of Maya is precisely the cause of our samsara, our limited existence, our suffering. The whole problem is created by this. We think, why did Brahman create all this? It created so much problem. Let Brahman create all this. What's the problem? The problem is, we do not realize ourselves to be Brahman. We do not realize the world to be Brahman. An enlightened person does precisely that. Enlightened person is perfectly aware of body and mind, just like we are, but also perfectly aware of what is Brahman here. Perfectly aware of everything outside, but also perfectly aware of what's Brahman there. So the enlightened person says, Brahmarpanam Brahmavi. Brahman is the ritual. Brahman is the offering. We are aware of the ritual, we are aware of the offering. But we don't know what is Brahman there. Brahman is right there, but we can't separate the two. The enlightened person is not that he is not aware of the ritual or the offering. Understands what a ritual is, what is an offering, who is the person offering, the fire into which he is offering. All those things an enlightened person can see and understand. And in each of those things, what is Brahman, the enlightened person can see. Just like you can see in this table and in these chairs, they seem to be so different from each other, but you can see what is wood here and what is wood here. There is a golden bangle, there is a golden necklace, and a golden earrings, classic example. And somebody comes and tells you the reality is gold. The first mistake is to throw away all the ornaments and look for gold. You'll never find it. And the other mistake is to take one of the ornaments as gold. The bangle is gold. The problem there is, the moment the bangle is melted and made into earrings, you will say, oh, gold has gone. Gold is not gone. That which was a bangle is now an earring. What ignorance, veiling power of ignorance has done is, it has veiled the difference between bangle, name and form and gold. We are taking the whole thing as bangle. If you say this is gold, we are taking the bangle, name and form as gold. If you say no, the name and form is not gold, we throw the whole thing away and we start looking for gold. It's right here. It's right within us. It's within each one of our experiences. The Kena Upanishad says, Pratibodha Veditam Matam Amritatvam Hivindate. One who recognizes Brahman, sees Brahman in every experience of life, will attain immortality. Whether you are eating, or drinking, or talking, or meditating, in every experience one realizes Brahman. And that person attains immortality. So, 15th verse, very important. It has now outlined the problem to us. The problem is, within us, we do not realize the difference between Brahman and body and mind. Outside us, we do not realize the difference between name and form and Brahman. Now, how do you tackle this? Within us, we must learn to separate, to distinguish between, to discern what is Brahman and what is not Brahman. And this we have done. This we have done from the very first class. That is Drg Drsya Viveka. Now what remains for us is the simple task of seeing Brahman in the universe, everything in the universe. That will come. That will come. The problem has now been pointed out. Half the task is already done. The other half remains. We now know the outlines of how to realize Brahman within us. What is the way? The seer and the seen are different. Now let's apply it. Here is the seen, here is the seer. They are different, clear. Here is the seen, and the mind is the seer. They are different, clear. The mind is the seen. Something behind the mind sees the mind. All changes in the mind. All comings and goings are in the mind. That which shines upon the mind neither changes nor comes and goes. That is Brahman, that I am. Now how to see it in the world outside? That will come. Now already I have got one question. Let me quickly answer that. This part is over. And I also promised to tell a couple of stories. Who asked? Somebody had asked. So I'll tell a couple of stories also afterwards. Yes, that's okay. Now I'm erasing the universe.
Maharaj, how about Purusha and Prakriti? Were you going to be talking about that at all?
Which one?
Purusha and Prakriti, how it figures into this.
Not today. Okay, Purusha and Prakriti I can just indicate very simply. In Sankhya, this is called Purusha. And all of this is called Prakriti. With certain differences. One. In Sankhya, it's not one. There are many Purushas. Each of us is a separate Purusha. Separate pure consciousness. Vedanta says it's one reality. Second big difference. In Sankhya, Prakriti and all its products, this is Prakriti. What we call Maya in Vedanta is Prakriti in Sankhya. Prakriti and all its products are real. You cannot say that they neither exist nor they cannot be said to exist, they cannot be said to not to exist. You cannot say that. They very much exist. Nature and consciousness are two ultimate realities in Sankhya. The goal is to separate them. When you realize yourself as pure consciousness, you are beyond suffering. You become free. When you are mixed up with nature, you think I am a body. Then only suffering comes. So the Sankhya and Yoga, they try to separate the two. What Advaita Vedanta does is very different. It tries to find the oneness in everything and show you to be that oneness. You are not separate from nature. It is you. You are Brahman and Brahman is appearing as all this. Now, stop. We are putting this book aside now. One question was there. I'll answer it quickly and then go on to one or two other questions and a couple of stories before we end. Bhakti. The question was the role of Bhakti in Jnana, in this path which we are taking. The role of Bhakti in itself is understood. Almost every theistic religion is a religion of love. Love of God, surrender to God, belief in God, faith in God, however you conceive of it. That's the path of Bhakti. Most of the theistic religions, Christianity of course, Islam, Judaism, in Hinduism, the Vaishnava approach, the Shaiva approach, the Tantra approach, the Shakta approach, they're mostly religions of love. Love, surrender, faith. But now we are asking the different question. What is the role of Bhakti in the path of Jnana? What is the role of Bhakti? This I am telling you from the practical experience of monks who have been walking on the path of Jnana, the Himalayan monks, Shankarapanthi, followers of Shankara. What do they say? At first they may seem to dismiss Bhakti, or they may seem to relegate it to a lower level. But they say practically what the problem is this. Jnana operates at the level of the intellect. It removes the ignorance in the intellect. So Jnana comes, Jnana means knowledge. it removes the ignorance in the intellect. So now you know or you understand how you can be pure consciousness of Brahman. But the problem is desire operates in the heart. By heart I mean our emotions. Desire is at the level of the emotions. Desire is not an intellectual thing. So when you know something, your ignorance about that is removed, but your desire for that may not be removed. Desire pervades the heart, and most of the time, in most of our cases, we are impelled into action by what we desire, but what we want by our passions, rather than by our ideas. So what will happen to a Jnana Yogi is, no matter how many books he reads and how many retreats he attends, life will go on according to the desires of the heart, according to the love and lust and hate which is in the heart, likes and dislikes, raga, dvesha. That's in the heart, not in the intellect. Intellect has something to do with it, but not much. These are conditionings we have accumulated over lifetimes. And they will guide our actions. They will force us into action. We will be conflicted. I know this to be an illusion, I know this to be wrong, and I don't want to do this, and I do this and I regret it afterwards. And passion and desire and hatred and likes and love, they pull this other way. And you get torn apart. You feel torn apart.
You know what?
You feel torn apart. Torn apart. Pulled apart. Because your intellect and your heart are pulling in opposite directions. Now, what is the nature of desire? The nature of desire is I want. What? The world. By this I mean, I want the good things in the world, what I think are good for me, pleasant. Raga. Raga means attraction. And I don't want certain things which I regard to be unpleasant for me. Dvesha. Dislike. And all of it is based on ignorance, which was removed by Jnana. Because I think I am this body and mind, and hence certain things are pleasant for me, certain things are unpleasant for me. Being a body and mind. Now ignorance is removed and I realize I am Brahman, or at least I understand I am Brahman. But what happens is, though I understand I am Brahman, I continue to act as if I am a body and mind. I continue to feel and speak as if I am a body and mind, though I know better. Because I want the world. This continues. This is not at all, it continues merrily. It is not at all affected by all your Vedanta seminars. What can remove it? And these are the teachings of not of Bhakti Acharyas. This is the teaching of Advaita Acharyas, the teachers of non-duality. What can help a practitioner of non-duality there is Bhakti. Because what is the form of Bhakti? I want God.
Objective.
Yes.
That's it.
It replaces the world with God. Bhakti operates at the level of the heart. So it can help at the level of the heart. And it's an enormous help. In fact, a devotional person who has devotional practices, who feels some love of God, can easily take up jnana practices and understand. A person who's dry at the level of bhakti takes up jnana will find his or her path irrevocably blocked after some time. There's a lot of work to be done which we have ignored. And at one time you have to clear up the basement. So you have to come back to it. Bhakti.
So Maharaj, in this path of bhakti, still there is separateness, right? Because you've got the chosen deity, or Ishtadevata, and so separated.
Good question. Is there separateness in bhakti? How can you practice bhakti? You know what the question is? I am a jnana yogi. I want to know myself and everything as Brahman. I'm realizing that. I'm reading, all my training takes me there. Now you're telling me to practice bhakti where God, there must be some separation. A glorious God, loving God, some separation must be there. I must consider myself as an individual. And then only I can worship God. Now you are asking me to cultivate dualism. I'm cultivating non-dualism here. Isn't there a conflict? Remember, there is a conflict if two real contradictory things are there. A real desert and real water are contradictory. A real desert and an appearance of water, a mirage, they can go perfectly well together. A real rope cannot be a real snake. But a real rope can appear as an imaginary or a false snake. On the ground of jnana, where all is Brahman, I can cultivate, I can imagine, I can, you don't have to imagine much because we are used to individuality. So I can see myself as an individual, which is very easy for me to do. And then I can see Brahman as God. As an avatar, as Krishna or Ramakrishna or Chaitanya. There is a saying by a great Advaitin, very beautiful saying. Bodhat prag dvaitam mohaya. Bodhat prag dvaitam mohaya. It means before enlightenment, dualism leads to delusion, to worldliness. Prapte manishaya. After enlightenment, after you get the enlightening knowledge, manisha is enlightening knowledge. Prapte manishaya. Bhakti artham kalpitam dvaitam advaitadapi sundaram. The dualism cultivated, cultured for the sake of love is more beautiful than non-dualism. You know non-dualism to be the truth. And on the ground of that non-dualism, you cultivate a loving dualism with God. It's not so strange. After all, we have the experience of dualism with this world. Replace it with the dualism with God. That dualism will not hinder your non-dualism. What hinders your non-dualism is the dualism with respect to the world. Here is a world which I desire, tempts me. Here is a world which I hate, which repels me. Temptation and repulsion, love and hate. That's the outcome of considering the world to be a reality apart from it. When you realize it's all one Brahman, and then you cultivate the apartness as God. Here is God whom I love. That dualism, kalpitam dvaitam, he says, and imagine a cultivated dualism is more beautiful than non-dualism, than just non-dualism. And then again, if we look at the lives of great non-dualists, they were also all great bhaktas. Swami Vivekananda, Shankara himself, so many beautiful hymns to the Divine Mother, to Shiva, to Vishnu, to Ganga, to Ganesh, and so many. All of them. The flights of devotion and knowledge. Both of them. Vivekananda, speaking about Ramakrishna, Vivekananda says, he said, I am all knowledge outside, but I am all bhakti within. And the old man, he appeared to be all bhakti outside. Inside he was all knowledge.
But
when you look at Sri Ramakrishna, he's like a really completely soft person, crying and singing and dancing. It's all knowledge inside, he says. Non-dualism inside.
Bhakti without jnana can lead to fanaticism.
Yes. And jnana without bhakti can lead to dryness and intellectualism. Swami Pramesha, you're saying something?
yeah, I was saying about Sri Ramakrishna, apparently he started as a devotional path till Totapuri came
Yes.
and said this is all ultimately still part of the mind,
Brahman.
and therefore we need to go beyond the goddess of Kali, goddess Kali.
Yeah.
So when he was, my question is, well, not so much question but comment, that when he was thinking of Kali as God, a goddess,
Yes.
so and then when he became, Advaita after being Totapuri, then he came back and then he saw Kali everywhere, Mother Kali everywhere. So, what's your comment on that?
Sri Ramakrishna calls it Vijnana. After Jnana, Vijnana. You realize everything is Brahman. Then you turn back and look upon this world. You realize that you are Brahman. Brahman is the only reality. Then you look upon the world which you have left behind, Neti Neti. You look at it, all is Brahman. He gives the example of, you go up a building. You go through the door and the first floor and the staircase and go to the ceiling, the roof of the building. And then he says, you realize the very bricks and mortar and concrete of which the roof is made of, the whole building is made of the same thing. What you have left behind. But you must make the ascension first. Otherwise, if you stay right here and say, okay, then everything is Brahman. I need not go to that path. Everything is Brahman, so let me have everything as Brahman. You end up with materialism. I don't know what Brahman is. I just end up with this word, that's all. You have to realize, leave this behind, realize, and then look back and see everything is Brahman. This is what we did. Seer and seen are different. Well, I'm not the world, I'm not the body, I'm not the mind, I am the witness of the mind. So we left it behind. Are all realized to be the same Brahman which I find within. So Sri Ramakrishna called it Vijnana. Vijnana, there is no translation. Jnana means knowledge. Vijnana means fuller knowledge, supreme knowledge.
Vishesha knowledge.
Vishesha knowledge. It will translate literally as specialized knowledge, but that's not what he means.
But in Sanskrit, Vijnana means Vishesha Jnana.
Vishesha Jnana. Vishesha would mean specialized.
Specialized knowledge.
Or qualified, but that's not what it's not.
Mature knowledge.
Matured knowledge or fuller knowledge.
Yeah.
Supreme knowledge, a final conclusion. And Sri Ramakrishna says, after jnana, after realizing that you are Brahman and everything is Brahman, bhakti bhakto bhagavan thaka ei pakamat. He says, then you spend the life in the love of God. With devotees, with God and with love. And he says, this is the final opinion. That's a bhakti which comes after jnana. Everything becomes love then. Because you realize everything is Brahman. And the appearance continues. I am a body. And here is the Divine Mother Kali. What will be the relationship? Love. Surrender, love. And here are all the children of Kali. Love. Oneness. Alright. Let's stop here. Story time. But you have to stop recording. Yeah. Oh, there's a question?
I just have a clarification. You said after enlightenment, one can cultivate a even greater form of devotion. And you said before enlightenment, one can cultivate regular. I missed that part. I wasn't clear what you meant. I'm sorry.
Oh, before enlightenment.
Yes.
Before enlightenment, let's just cultivate regular devotion.
Okay, thank you.
You have a mantra, you have a chosen deity, and you perform rituals, you perform japa, you love God, try to see God and serve God in everybody. What we are all trying to do. And that's all very helpful for non-dualistic realization.
Okay.
You say, but Swami, that's dualism. Well, that's a skill, that's a very interesting thing. What the Swamis in the Himalayas say. Yes, it is dualism, but this dualism is replacing your worldly dualism. That worldly dualism which was there, it is there, you can't deny it, the worldly dualism is there. I may speak of Vedanta by the tongue, but I feel that the table is separate from me because I identify with this body of flesh and blood. Therefore I feel that thing is separate from me. So I feel it. If I feel this dualism, why not replace it with the dualism of God? It's very helpful for non-dualistic realization. And you know intellectually at least that it is one. The God you worship and the God within you, they are one reality. We know that. And yet we worship outside. That is the secret behind the image worship of the Hindus. This is sorely misunderstood, especially by the Semitic religion, especially by the Muslims who came afterwards. Thou shalt not worship a graven image. Correct. But I say only a Vedantin can understand why. Why shall you not worship a graven image? You say, no, that is not God. Really, if it is not God ultimately, then your God is God minus that graven image. Your God is a limited God, which is no God at all. If God is to be God, God has to be infinite. There cannot be anything existing which can be apart from God. That's why a transcendent God without being immanent leads to terrible problems. And that's what some of the religions which propose a transcendent God, God an other. And yet God cannot be an entirely another. If God incarnates as Jesus Christ, if you deny that also, that God knows that Jesus Christ is not an incarnation, so Islam will say Jesus Christ is a prophet. But then they say God created this universe. If God created this universe, God cannot be a completely transcendental other. God did do something that's connected to us. And if this universe is other than God, then God is limited by this universe. There is something that God is not. It's a limited God. That limited God is no God at all. That's the very definition of an idol, a limited God. They don't realize that. In fact, they do. Theologians in all the religions have struggled with the problem of immanence and transcendence. And it's only in non-dual Vedanta the problem of immanence and transcendence has been solved.
About what again, Swami?
Immanence and transcendence. And transcendence.
And wouldn't the mystics of all religions also fall into that category?
What category?
Where, of seeing the immanence and transcendence?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, so they form a kind of a unique...
Yeah, that's what Aldous Huxley said when he wrote the perennial philosophy.
Right.
He says it's the same thing throughout all religions.
Yeah.
And I read a very interesting book recently. The book is in the context of the new atheism. Richard Dawkins, Christopher Hitchens, Sam Harris. So there's this book called God as Existence, Consciousness, Bliss.
Written by?
What's the name of the book?
Written by?
Is it Dawkins?
Written by Bentley Hart. I've forgotten the full name. He's a Christian theologian.
What?
A Christian theologian. I've forgotten the whole name. Hart. I can find out immediately.
Not Eckhart.
Not a. He's not so well known.
He's
Current?
He's current.
Yeah.
He's current. And he has got talks on YouTube also. He's a well-known theologian. And his thesis in this book is that the new atheists have got it all wrong. What the God that atheists among scientists are denying is a God as a thing, as an item in this world. But he says the highest conception of God that we have in all the religions of the world is God is not a thing. And God is not nothing either. He doesn't say God is no thing, that's my coining. But he says the highest conception of God that we have come across in all the great religions of the world is God as pure consciousness, God as the ground of all existence, pure being, and God as transcendental love or bliss. And he says this is, and he acknowledges it, this is perfectly formulated in the Hindu Vedantism as Satchidananda. And the names of his chapters in the book are God as Sat, God as, he uses the Sanskrit terms, God as Chit, God as Ananda.
Wow.
And he holds that this idea of God is entirely irrefutable. He says once you understand this, and the whole book is very interesting. He says that I'm often told, oh, you are just making it up now. And his response is, I'm not making it up. These books are thousands of years old, especially in Hinduism, the Upanishads are the oldest existing books. So I'm not making it up. Then the second objection is, well, that's something, an airy abstraction which you theologians have dreamt up. Ordinary people don't understand God in that way. His answer is very sarcastic. He says, when I want to understand science, will I go to a grade 6 student or will I go to Stephen Hawking and Lawrence Krauss or Richard Dawkins? I'll go to the scientist to learn about science, not to a grade school student. In the same way, if you want to learn the highest idea about God and religions, come to the philosophers. Come to the theologians and philosophers. Why are you hassling the man on the street?
Makes sense.
But
So-
why is he talking? Because he's an atheist.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying.
No, if you want to go, if you want to learn about science.
You want to learn about science. The
Yeah.
atheist is saying,
Yeah.
this idea of God is something you find in your books, very high philosophy. Ordinary people don't think of God in this way. And what we are refuting is the ordinary conception of God.
Yeah.
The answer is, why are you doing that? If you really want to talk about God, then you should learn the highest, the best conception of God. Come to the original books. Come to the theologians and the philosophers. If I want to learn about science, will I argue with a school student or will I argue with Richard Dawkins? I will try to understand from Richard Dawkins. He will teach me about science. Will a grade school student teach me about science?